Happy 23rd of October, guys. Happy anniversary, 20th anniversary to my favorite movie, Sideways. If you are interested in what is going on in that movie, you have to basically watch it. It was published 20 years ago on October 22nd, 2004. And if you are interested in how our event on the 20th anniversary of Sideways went, you have to wait until the weekly update number 204 because actually, I'm recording this episode on Tuesday afternoon, and in 3 hours, we'll start our event. So I'll let you know at the latest on Saturday in our weekly update. I'm so excited about this, guys. I'm so curious what the people will think about the movie because I know that some of the attendees of the tasting have never seen the movie before. But I'm even more excited for the tasting because we will compare Pinot Noirs and Merlots from different regions all over the planet, California, Burgundy, Germany, New Zealand, and also England against each other. And I'm so excited for this, and I'll let you know. Today's episode is a special one. And on the one hand, this was sleeping for a while in my head, talking about the change in consumer behavior, especially when we talk about pre-COVID and post-COVID. And in addition, I had some chat with clients talking about what is going on at the moment, what is changing with no-shows, with the booking rates, last minute, and everything, what is going on in the market at the moment. And I thought it might be a good idea in the future. And for the Sideways event, I experienced, unfortunately, 40% of people who just canceled their booking on the exact same day of the event. And I mean, actually, I was a bit sad, but not for me personally, more for the people who also wanted to attend the event. And right now it's just less people, so probably less people to talk to. It's just different, okay? And in addition, of course, if you want to talk as a company, you have additional costs in the background because you have to share it with less people. And of course, you sold less tickets. I think that there was a huge shift in consumer behavior over the last 4 to 5 years. Of course, also driven by COVID. And we will dive into all of this in this episode number 203. And I have some advice, some tips for companies, how to deal with this development. And I have kind of a tip for every person out there who might rethink their approach to wine tastings, to events, and to bookings in general. Have fun with 203. Hey guys, welcome to the Pinot and Pixel podcast episode number 203. And today we are going to talk about the shift in society when it comes to bookings, to tastings, to events, no-shows, everything that is concerned about this topic. But before we start, I want to say hello to our brand new listeners, Vitaly, Christian, and Chrissy, my physiotherapist. Chrissy, I hope you like what you're hearing. Right now, we talk about a thing that is not only present in the wine industry, but also just in general. It's a thing that everyone can relate, I think. Imagine the following situation. You booked a ticket for an event, let's say a wine tasting for $60 on a Tuesday night. You're looking forward to it. You booked it, 2 to 3 weeks before. And the day comes and you're super stressed because, you have to work tomorrow. You have a workshop with your CEO. You have to go to yoga class on Wednesday night. You have to bring your children to the kindergarten and back from there, maybe at 5 p.m. And the event starts at 8. And when you wake up in the morning, you realize, oh, wow, that's a lot. So you call the organizer and say, sorry, man, I have to cancel. I can't come. I can just manage this. And the good version of this is that he or she just says, I'm too stressed out. Is it possible to just postpone my booking to another event of, a similar tasting or something like this? And usually customers are treated very kind and people say, yeah, sure, come on. Next event is 3 weeks later. I just book you on this event. The worst scenario is when people claim that they are ill or they have COVID and They just try to make you emotional and saying, oh no, I'm so sorry for that. Of course, because you have Corona, you can just get your money back. And usually when you are the person who just doesn't want to go to the tasting, of course, you're happy, at least if you are booked to another, they just postpone it, or if you get your money back. In my opinion, usually when it comes to one day before, you could not expect to get your money back. And when you think of flight tickets, when you think of theater or cinema tickets, when you think of train tickets, unless there is this flex ticket stuff, you don't have the possibility to just transfer the booking to another date. But some people just do it because they are just kind, and maybe they already have figured out how to deal with such situations. So right now we switch the perspective. Imagine you are the organizer, okay? You know that you need at least 8 people, that you are break even with your event at that night with £60 or €60 ticket, and the maximum of 20 people is not reached. So you have probably 10 to 12. Let's say 10. And Monday, Tuesday, people start calling you and saying, sorry, I'm ill. Can I postpone it? I'm stressed out. I have to figure out what I have to take on holidays. I don't know what the reasons are, but in the end, you end up with 4 cancellations or 4 requests of transferring to another date. So right now, you have 6 people booked on this event. What do? Normally, when you just look at the numbers, you have to cancel that event. Call the people and say, sorry guys, we're just not enough people. We have to cancel it. Who does that? I don't think so. I don't know. I guess nobody would do that because we still love what we're doing. Especially me personally, I like to host tastings. I like to give people some knowledge on wine and just trying to transfer some fascination for this amazing space. So usually I don't care if there is 6 or 50 people in the room because I just love to have a chat of curious people. This is why I'm doing this, because I love it. And nevertheless, I'm not the only person experiencing this situation as an organizer, that people think that it's super normal to just cancel and get your money back. And I guess the reason for this big shift in society, the main reason is the different situation comparing pre-COVID and post-COVID and what happened over the last 4 to 5 years. And there is some data showing this. And in addition, we are living in a time right now where there is so much stuff available. People just don't know how to prioritize anymore. Or maybe they just want to stay flexible and they just book 5 things in parallel and they just cancel it right the second before the actual event takes place. And this is of course possible because everything is mobile, is digital right now, and usually many options are available. And I mean, of course, it's a good thing if you want to go on a journey and I don't know, I get ill one day before and I'm able to cancel my hotel, which would cost me 400 to 500 quid. Sure, this is a good thing. And this is of course also a risk that some hotels have to carry, unfortunately. But talking about booking 4 to 5 events or booking 4 to 5 hotels in parallel and finally selecting the one that you like the most in that special moment, that is stupid. And that is unfair, in my opinion, to all the people who just want to offer their services to make people happy, to just satisfy their needs. When we look at the different segments of tourism, so let's say flights, hotel bookings, restaurant bookings, and then of course events and tastings. This is the 4 I have in my head, and there is some companies who are sharing their data. Meaning, if you are interested in how many people have been no-shows for the last 12 months or so, there is some data, and we will talk about data in a second. I just wanted to let you know that the data we will talk about is not representative. I mean, there's big players such as OpenTable for restaurant reservations or Booking.com or Airbnb sharing their data, but it is still just a part of the market, but it gives you a feeling of what has happened over the last 4 years and what is currently going on, especially in the tourism category. Just to give you some numbers, there were studies showing that 40% of event managers, of event organizations, note that the biggest problem is short-term cancellations, because they get in the exact same situation I just described in the beginning of this episode. OpenTable said that they had 20% more no-shows compared to pre-COVID. 20% more. And Statista shared that the average time of booking before the actual event changed by 30%, from over 30 days to around about 22 days. And this is also data that was shared by Airbnb, and Booking is quite similar, 31 to 21 days in average. Isn't that crazy? And when it comes to events, there's even a more crazy number. Last minute bookings are now the norm, talking about 48 hours before events. And it's not only because it's possible, it's due to digitalization, applications that are available, OpenTable and stuff. It is also because people are not flexible anymore. There is so much stuff available. And in my opinion, many people also lack in reliability and in a balanced way of prioritizing their everyday life. And this is a thing that will stay, I guess, over the next years. And the only thing I can do is sharing it some tips how you can deal with this as a company, and how we as human beings can try to adapt a bit and bringing more empathy back in the game. So what is happening? I mean, we take the exact same example. You book a flight. The flight is getting more expensive the closer you get to the actual date. This is the norm. I mean, there is some people saying that 6 or 8 weeks in advance, it's the cheapest to buy a flight. And sometimes the prices, of course, they change due to the booking situation and stuff, but usually flights get more expensive. And if you don't have a super flex, something very expensive ticket, if you can't fly, you have no chance. You booked it, but you don't get your money back. The money's gone. Talking about theater, cinema, or even train tickets, it's quite similar, but with a difference. Train tickets, it's a very complex thing, and I still don't get it. I have the feeling that it is quite similar to flight tickets, that they get more expensive the closer you get to the actual event. And when we talk about cinema and theater, and I mean, you can put wine tastings and stuff in the exact same category, the price stays the same, but there's a big difference between those two categories. Theater and cinema tickets, usually you cannot cancel them. Once bought, you just have to go there, or you just lose your money as well. But when it comes to event tickets for wine seminars, for wine courses, tastings, wine and dine and stuff, there are some cancellation fees, such as, I don't know, until 7 days before the actual event, you are allowed to at least transfer your booking to another date. And this is something that companies offer because they want to give some flexibility back to the customers. And I mean, I like the idea. The problem is that more and more people just using this for excuses and even trying to get a transfer or even a refund at the same day, of the exact same day of the event. And this is not fair. And talking about restaurants, the no-shows they just went to the roof. I have a colleague who's working for a bar, for a restaurant and a cafe in Frankfurt, and she shares a lot about her everyday life in the restaurant. And she was also, I won't say complaining, but just referring to this big problem that many people, they book their table and they just don't show up. And because you don't have to pay for the reservation, there's nothing you can do about it as a restaurant. And sometimes it happened that a high quality restaurant like hers had 50% empty tables. And there was a recent study from the US. People would just ask on OpenTable how their behavior changed during COVID. And people said that they didn't show up at 28% of the reservations. Isn't that crazy? So every third person just skips the reservation. This is a neck breaker for some companies. And when we come to tastings, to wine and dinner and stuff like that, where you have to order stuff in advance because you have to plan with the food and with the wines. And I mean, it's similar to restaurants, but maybe they have a better strategy of dealing with food and putting it in the refrigerator and stuff, and because they're preparing it fresher. But when you have a wine tasting, let's say wine and cheese, and you buy the cheese 1 or 2 days before you order it, you can't cancel it. And if you lose 4 of 12 customers, means that you have probably the same amount of products, of food you have to spend on the tasting, but there's only 8 paying customers. And this is a problem. This is a big problem. So what are the reasons for that? I guess then there is some macroeconomical factors such as inflation or financial uncertainty that people say, I don't want to have a long-term commitment because maybe something happens in between and I'm not able to go there, which is a bit weird because, I mean, if it's May and I want to go to Barbados in October and I book my flight, I do everything that I can go to Barbados. So it's a thing of the prioritization. And the second thing that more and more people are asking for a refund instead of just getting a voucher for their cancellation, it's because they maybe just need the money or they want to respend it on other events or on just other things. And this loss of purchasing power is driving way more people than it did a couple of years ago. The second thing is that there is some psychological factors such as FOMO. FOMO is a big thing. So if you don't know FOMO, fear of missing out. So the fear that something is happening and I'm not able to take part. So what are people doing? If there is 4 to 5 events and the exact same day, they just book every 5 of them. And the closer the date comes, they are just selecting which one to kick out. And in the end, they end up with just one event or even none because they just want to stay at home. The paradox of choice is also a thing. Today, with social media, with the internet, with everything, we have so many choices that is sometimes just overwhelming. How can you even decide what to do on a Friday night if you have 25 options with 13 friends and in a price range of 2 to 200 euro? How do you do that? It's just ridiculous. And in addition, when it comes to psychology, people love this flexibility, and it's supported by apps where you can just click cancel and you get a refund. And I guess most of us are really used to that when it comes to booking hotels, for example, on booking.com. It's super normal that I would say, just a feeling, I haven't Googled it, I haven't checked out the number, but I would say at least 60 or 70% of the bookings you can get with a free cancellation up to a date some days in advance. This is what plays into this change of behavior. And it was basically, I would say it was mainly driven through Corona because of course people were afraid of going out, what could happen. And they tried to get out, they tried to go out at night. But maybe 5 days before people, the government said, oh no, you have to stay at home, you can't do this. And it was tough time for everybody, and we still managed to have some great events. I love those online tastings, and I mean, I thought that some of them would stay a little bit longer, or at least as a second option that, I don't know, 10% of the people book. In business, it got normal to just have online meetings, and to be fair, it saves so much money, it saves so much resources, it's better for the CO2 footprint. I like it. When it comes to tastings, people want to have social contact, and I get it because it's way more interesting, it's way more exciting to sit next to each other, chat with each other, and have a drink. And when society is changing to, I don't know what to do, with who to do, when to do, how much can it cost, and am I even able to take part in this event on that specific day, then you have this impact on the companies and on society as well. And what did we see? We saw a rise in last minute bookings, higher no-show rates. We saw higher cancellations. We saw a shift from long-term to short-term bookings. And of course, with an effect on the prices, because when you realize that 80% of your customers are booking very, very close to the actual event, you can adjust the prices as a restaurant, as a hotel, and as an airline as well. And the only industry that is not doing this is the wine industry, because they are afraid of losing customers. And it's the exact same problem we are having, and we will go on to have over the next, I don't know, decade or so. The wine industry is struggling. People are drinking less. People are less interested in wine. They still see it as a snobby product and adapting to a healthier lifestyle. There's so many factors that play in. Companies have to adjust to that. Why talking differently to customers? Why accepting this change and also adjusting their companies to this when it comes to communication, when it comes to the services they offer, and also when it comes to rules and regulations. The first thing usually companies do is they adapt in, I would say, an understandable but sometimes negative way, offering less products or fewer tastings, setting up cancellation fees. And to be fair, this is one of the best things I've ever heard. In the last 4 years in gastronomy, I'm such a big fan of reservation fees for restaurants because it will almost kill the no-shows. And what OpenTable also showed, that people have more reliability on their bookings when they use a specific tool that gives them the feeling that they are more reliable with their booking, that this is an actual booking. You know, you get a ticket, there is your confirmation, and if you want to cancel, please connect directly to this and that. And there's even restaurants. I talked about this almost 2 years ago on this podcast. The Noble Rod, I really like the idea. The Noble Rod is one of the best restaurants, not only in London, maybe in England even. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Noble Rod, and they have a cancellation fee of £50 per person. It's a good thing because they say if you come with 3 or 4 people, usually have 1 or 2 bottles of wine, you have food, and at least we earn £60 to £80 per person. So we say if you don't come, if you are no-show, we just keep the money. We just charge your credit card. It's totally fair. And if this is the way to get people to more reliability, it's not a good way, but it's an option. But there is some things I would definitely also recommend. And usually for me, there is 2 sides. There is the side of the companies that offer the services and the products, and there's the side of the customer, of just everyday people. And I would start with the side of the companies. And the first and probably one of the biggest things is you have to be transparent about your services, what you offer, and what will happen, and the exact date, night, whatever, and the event. What do you offer? How long will it take? What do you get for the money? So the possibility to check the value of your offer against the price is very, very big. People need safety. They want to be safe while booking. They want to feel safe. And I'm not talking about data protection. This is a thing as well. I'm talking about, I know what I'm booking. I know what I get for my money. And I'm convinced that this is the money I would love to spend on this experience. And if everything is totally clear and you don't start struggling, is it really taking place? When does it start? Stuff like that. You can just send out an email or so. We are really looking forward to you. Here's a special gift for you. You know, so many different industries have understood the idea of a funnel, of a communication funnel. And I'm not talking about a lead and sales funnel. I'm talking about after sales communication. This is one of the most important things. And after sales sometimes is even before the event. Don't forget that. If somebody books your ticket 3 weeks in advance, he or she has at least 2 weeks to cancel this, following the normal rules of a 7 days cancellation for free. So in these 2 weeks, you have to ensure that they don't cancel. And there's so many ways to do that, but just be transparent on what they are getting and ensure that they are clear on every necessary information is your first job. Then, in addition, when it comes to transparency, also in case of cancellation, what happens? Refund or voucher? What possibilities do you have? And again, this is just the rules you put on your website, the information you put next to your product. You can always talk to your customer, and if you really hear, I don't know, he or she's really sad or she's really ill and she would have loved to come to your seminar, it's your personal choice what you do with that. I always recommend to always go at least 1 or 2 steps towards your customer. This was one of the biggest thing in the last 5 years for me personally, and I kept many customers through that because, who cares about $30 or $40 for a tasting if you can just show some empathy and offer something that helps the customer and maybe you as well, because maybe you won't lose the customer. If she's an asshole, okay, just cancel it, send her an invoice, it's okay. There are some, unfortunately, but with some more empathy, it's so much easier to solve this kind of situation, use ChatGPT if you're not familiar with situations like that. And you might be able to keep the customer, and even getting those customers to talk to their friends and colleagues saying, hey man, it's the exact same day I canceled. It's such an amazing guy. He called me and said, hey man, I get it. Just, come to the next tasting in 3 weeks. Super cool. And even if you have advocates like that, usually the friends don't accept to be treated the exact same way. Maybe they mention it and say, yeah, of course, but this was a different situation. And you learn, the more often it happens, you learn how to deal with customers and to get a feeling for people and for customers. And for me, it was such a big training on empathy over the last 4 years. I really loved this process and I'm still loving it. And if you have the chance to get a bit deeper into that, please do so. What you can do in your marketing strategies is a bit different. For example, let's say when it comes to theater, cinemas, and events, usually you have a fixed price. And you cannot say the closer it gets to the event, the more expensive the event gets, unless you are a very famous person or so, or the tickets have been sold out days before the event. I would say calculate your fixed price and then set the price of the early bird ticket to that calculation. Saying if your calculation brings out with at least 8 people, the event has to cost 60. I would put 75 on the internet and say early bird the first 2 weeks, from now on 60, just for you. So everybody can decide whether to book the early bird ticket or not. It's just one option. I barely see it, and I would definitely push you to do this more often. Then people have to do their commitments earlier, and maybe they get a feeling for what happens if they cancel. Because on the one hand, then you have the possibility to sell it for more. And in addition, maybe they have to pay more if they change their mind or so. And when you have a cancellation fee that is directly connected to that, why not? Could work. Second thing, and this is even more powerful than the early bird thing, the bring a friend bonus. When you say, I don't know, if you acquire a friend with the second ticket, you get 30% off. And with every next customer, you get 10% more or so. I don't know. Or buy 2, get 3, something like this. I mean, you can also calculate this in the background. And if you bring more people to your events, there's a bigger possibility of reoccurring on a second event or on a second tasting. What I also would recommend is, especially when you are a powerful brand on social media, communicate or highlight the point of the reliability through reels, through posts, just giving people or taking people on your personal journey as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as an organizer, saying, we love to have you here, guys, and this is why reliability is so important for us, because we lose money and we buy more than we have to, and then we have to throw it away, and this is not good for the CO2 footprint, this is not good for our business, and you don't want to be treated in the exact same way, do you? This is what you could do as a company. And what I would also recommend as a restaurant or so working in gastronomy, try to start with cancellation fees. If you have the booking rates, especially on specific dates, for example, on Thursday, on Friday, or on Saturday, and you know usually the house is full and there's even a big queue waiting in front of the restaurant, just do so, please. I mean, why not? Why? I think people should pay $20-30 if they are just no-shows per freaking person. And last but not least, this is my personal call to action for you guys out there. Think about how you want to be treated by other people and try to reflect this on situations when you have to deal with people or situations like we just described. Meaning, start communicating as early as possible. And I'm not talking about business. I'm also talking about appointments with friends and with colleagues, as early as possible, as transparent as possible. With a minimum amount of empathy, everybody will understand your situation. And even if not, it's your life, but try to start communicating as early as possible. And the thing that also comes along with that is put your fucking ego aside, because sometimes people think, I don't want to be rude and I have to say this or that the person is not, sad on me or so. They will be sad anyway, because it's an unnormal situation. But the earlier you communicate it, the better it would be for them. And in addition, ego aside also means this bad conscience play, this like, If I don't go, they would be mad at me, so I have to go, but you know, I'm not super excited to go there. Why? Seriously, why? And then canceling last minute is also the exact same thing, just saying, you know, I think you will understand this, but I have personal issues. And a little spoiler, this is a thing that I have experienced over the last 6 months in a very, very large amount, especially with friends and colleagues. And in my opinion, we always should support friends and colleagues much more than every foreign person. So if someone asks if I want to be part of his tasting and I like the tasting, I like the idea behind, and I am free on that night, I just book the fucking ticket. I don't ask for a friends discount. Friends should not do this at all, never ever. That's my personal opinion. Friends have to support their friends' stuff, period. And in addition, if once booked, once confirmed, the only thing where you should cancel your appointment is when really something bad happens. And I also mean when you're not feeling good, when it stresses you the fuck out, cancel it. But be honest with the person, be transparent with that person. Everything can happen at any time. We get it. And it's important to be transparent, you know? Also, with you having some more empathy for the person who's organizing this, maybe you are even able to do this more easier because you also already had to organize an event, a tasting, or I don't know, a birthday party. Imagine you plan a birthday party, you invite 30 people and 8 show up. You will freak the hell out. And just people say, oh, sorry, I can't make it because it's the birthday of my sister tomorrow. Yeah, it has been the birthday of your sister 30 years ago. If you want to increase your responsibility, your reliability, plan ahead, try to prioritize as early as possible, try to learn how to assess days, stressful situations, evenings, meetings as realistic as possible. And if it already feels stressed 4 weeks in advance, it will be way more stressful on that exact date. So it might be a better day to say, Alex, I would love to come, but unfortunately on this day, it won't work. Sorry for that. But I have some friends I can send you. And of course, also this commitment showing Alex, I would love to be there as a sign of respect, of trust. And this accounts for the professional side and for the personal side as well. So to sum this up, guys, it is a thing. Something has changed in the society. Society has done a huge shift towards last minute bookings, less reliability, less responsibility, a lack of prioritization, and a lack of transparent communication. And I would really ask you to do this more often in a positive way. Talk to your friends, talk to your colleagues, and try to be more reliable. The society would be very, very grateful for that. Have a wonderful week, guys. See you on Saturday with the weekly update. Ciao, ciao.